please go through the case study once. Like I want you to read the case study. Okay, it is like a okay. I want you to go through the case study, understand it. Now, basically, once you go through this case study, we'll find out that so many stakeholders are there, even though these stakeholders directly will not be interacting with the application, but still they have some impact and influence. For example, the client HR, the client accounts executive, and the client technical team. These people, even though they don't directly interact with this application, still they have an impact. Not only that, even the candidates who attend for interviews, these people as well, even though they don't directly interact with the case study, they don't interact with the application, but still they are impacted by this. They will be impacted by this, right? So first of all, we need to understand those areas, the stakeholders who are directly and indirectly being influenced by this particular initiative. And then we have to identify the keywords, like what are the main keywords that is being floating here. The first one is job description, the second one is timesheet, the third one is contribution in timesheets. In timesheet, like for each JD, how much time they have contributed, and then invoices, So likewise, we have to actually understand the keywords now, right? So if you can understand it, and what is the major challenge is that the time for preparing an invoice, it is taking 5 days time. So we have to minimize on it. So that is what we have started the discussion, and we have covered, let me say, I assume that we have covered this knowledge area, illustration and collaboration. We have covered the knowledge area, illustration and collaboration. Now let's start the next knowledge area. Okay, this is requirements lifecycle management. In requirements lifecycle management, okay, here already, okay, in requirements lifecycle management, we are going to discuss about let us see how many tasks it is going to have. Okay, here in requirements lifecycle management, we have these 5 tasks. One is trace requirements, second one is maintain requirements, third one is prioritize requirements, and the fourth one is assess requirements changes, and the fifth one is approve requirements. Now let us try to understand what is a trace requirements. Let us try to understand what is trace requirements. Now here, for tracing the requirements, the purpose ensure that the requirements and designs at different levels are aligned to one another. And here we need to understand once again, requirement means, let me come to this. Here I'm going to so let me just give you how we can take it forward like this. Okay, now we are going to discuss about requirements lifecycle management. Okay, in requirements lifecycle management, we have how many tasks. One is trace requirements. In that trace requirements, okay, okay, so here we are trying to understand in the trace requirements. Here we are going to see what are the inputs, what are the outputs. Okay, what are the inputs, what are the outputs. We have to now understand it and take it forward. Okay, so here what inputs we are going to take is requirements and designs. So basically, before we get into these things, requirements means it has 2 parts. We have to understand requirements will have requirements, and we have designs. That is where we have started. Is requirements actually they come from the need of the stakeholders, and designs means from designs the solution, from designs solution will be developed. Okay, so basically we need to understand this particular point, then only we can take it. So requirements, we get it from the need of the stakeholders. From the needs of the stakeholders, we are going to come up with the requirements, and designs means whatever you suggest now, from there the solution will be developed. Okay. Now trace requirements. If you want to understand about tracing the requirements, what we are going to trace is that how this, how many, we have two parts here, requirements and designs. Okay, so number one, tracing requirements means we have to establish that framework, how this requirement, what are the requirements are there, and what the designs we are going to get, and how these are interlinked with each other, and if any change is going to happen, where that change is going to impact on this requirements and design, that is what we have to understand it. Okay, here in the inputs we are going to take the requirements and design. So what inputs we are going to take? Maybe trace to other requirements. Now inputs and designs. Now here, if you want to understand about the trace requirements, here inputs would be, we have to give both these requirements and designs as inputs. Okay, requirements may what you are going to give as requirements, and designs may what will come as the inputs for this trace requirements. Okay, just let us try to understand the case study. The case study may, can you identify what are the requirements and what are the designs here? Can anyone give some inputs here? What are the requirements and what are the designs we are going to take for the tracing of the requirements? Anyone?
IT.
Yeah, please tell me what will be the.
Yeah, the requirement in this. In the requirement in this study, the timesheet. The application should maintain the timesheet and generate the report.
Okay, now it's like a, let me say the same thing. I'm going to write it. Recruiter should be able to enter the efforts every hour. Okay, efforts, he will map it to the like a job description, and while entering he has to map the efforts to the job description and the client. Okay, so requirement means we have to, he should be able to enter the efforts into the job description and the, and the design may how we are going to actually achieve it. Here design would be like for that, parallelly our design, how it will be look like is, we will give them a drop down to select client and select what the JD which is actually working. Okay, and enter like from time and to time. Okay, also we may, also the recruiter may add profiles or resumes, profiles or resumes for that JD. Now this is the requirement which they gave, and the design, it may happen in this way, right? So it's just a discussion like how a recruiter, similarly you can come up with the requirement too, how the accounts officer will be looking into it. And now slowly you'll understand that before we could jump into things, we have somebody should define the clients, somebody should define the, let me say the requirements as well, what we say the JDs as well. And like we should give provision for the recruiter to add resumes, means resume, each resume will have a unique ID. We have to come up with a unique ID, and how that is being done, we have to come up with those things as well, right? Got it? So first of all, these like that they may come up with what the requirement and designs would look like. They should come give these as inputs. Okay, they'll give the requirements and they'll give the designs. This will be taken as the inputs, and how we are like the entire set would be, the pattern would be in this way. Okay, now requirements and design, how it will look like. Okay, this is like you can see the requirements including goals, designs may be trust. Likewise, I just gave you one example. I want you to think of other things, right? Inputs, they may give it in this way. And then you see the elements may, number one, level of formality. Elements may, what is their level of formality? What is the level of formality? Level of formality, the effort to trace requirements signal when the number of requirements or the level of formality increases. Now, I'll tell you, level of formality means, first of all, you have to understand which stakeholder till what extent that information is required. Okay, now level of formality may, what I can actually think about it. Now please understand, I'm not completed in this requirements and designs. This is not complete, just an one requirement, one design I gave. You have to at least upload some 10 requirements and 10 designs, then only you will get it. Level of formality, if you want to really understand about this level of formality, here, okay, if you see here, you see like accounts officer, what he actually wants, recruiters what they want, and clients account executive till what extent they want, candidates like what they need, and client HR and technical team what they actually require, like that. What exactly each stakeholder is going to what information is required. I'll tell you, for the recruiters, what is required is JD, job description, individual job descriptions they may require. But here, number of for accounts officer, you don't require the job description, just the title or different JDs. For an as an accounts officer, if I want to understand what level of information which I require is, I just want which recruiter worked on for which clients and for what job descriptions they worked and how many hours on each JD they have contributed. My area, my focus area is not whether they have recruited people or not, how much time. Here I'm just focusing on the time or the efforts kept by each recruiter on a JD and client. My focus area is this. As an accounts officer, my focus area would be on that. I'm least bothered about like whether they worked on Java profile or whether they worked on .NET profile or whether they worked on some testing profile. That is that I don't actually, I don't get into things. As an accounts officer, my interest will not be in that area. Okay, now as a recruiter, okay, this is as a whole the accounts officer. As a recruiter, I'm more focused on the JD which is given to me, and let me say what else we are for that JD, how much efforts we are for the JD may, the job description, the skill set involved, that level, the skill set involved, and how many resumes are there in the market. Like that, I'll be doing my research on that and how I can fill in that particular thing, and within the time frame can I make it or not. Likewise, I will be looking into things, right? So as a recruiter, my perspective of information is different. Okay, as a recruiter, my perspective about that information is different, right? So here, each person will have different levels of knowledge that is being required. It's not that all that information is shared to everyone. It's not the case. Till what extent we have to give that information, level of formality, that is what. And the tracing, okay, so you can't get into that. And okay, and coming to the relationship, to link the requirements on different levels of abstraction or and the types of relationships. Now the same thing, relationships is that now let me say each JD is a count here. Each JD for a recruiter which is just a count here to the account officer. Account officer, like it is a drill down. You can actually look at it as a drill down. You can actually look that as a drill down. The relationship between the JD of a recruiter and the effort that is counted by the account officer, it is like a drill down. Hope you got it. Relationships. You have any questions here on that? Like the relationships may? Did you understand what I'm trying to tell here, or you need some more explanation?
Yes.
Hope you understood this. Jan, did you get this? What I said here is the recruiters, this is a relationship. Now with the entities, what relationship they have it. It is a kind of, if you can understand it, what we are now discussing is all about, okay. We are discussing about in database, generally what will be the relationship that happens, or if you have gone through this object-oriented approach and UML, what relationships that this data will be having. Back end mein, database mein, tables mein, entities will be having this relationship. Here, front end mein, these entities would be having this data items will have the relationships. So we have to understand it, the traceable, like what relationships we have it. If more number of recruiters are there, the like number of recruiters will have an impact, number of working hours will have an impact. All this, what is the relationship between these entities, we have to identify it. And the types of relationships, okay, one is derived, the other one is dependent, and the other one is satisfy, and the other one is validate. What sort of relationships are exist between these particular entities. Now if you want to understand about entities, now you have to understand about the entities as well. Entities would be like, if you see here, I can tell you it all talks about I think I have, okay. Now for you, the traceability approach may, if you want to understand what is that. Okay, so here we can just understand about the job descriptions. Okay, number one, recruiters, job descriptions, and then we have these timesheets and the contribution of a recruiter for one particular JD. Okay, and the invoice generation, all these are linked with each other. What is the relationship between these things, we have to understand. Okay, you got me, no? First of all, we have the recruiter. To be very fair, first of all, we'll be having the recruiter, and there will be a JD where the recruiter has to work on it. Now the relationship between recruiter and JD. Okay, the relationship between recruiter and JD we have to understand. And also we'll have the timesheets. Now we have to understand the relationship between recruiter timesheet and timesheets, and okay, we have to understand the relationship between timesheets and recruiters, and relationship between timesheets and JDs. Can anyone tell me the relationship between timesheets and recruiters?
Along recruiters and JDs.
Right. And
JD.
right. And JD, timesheet and JD? Now timesheet, I'll tell you, in a single timesheet you can find multiple JDs. In a single timesheet you can find multiple JDs. Okay, and another thing I can tell you, in multiple timesheets you can find a single JD as well. A JD can be repeated in multiple timesheets as well. The relationship between timesheets and JDs is many to many.
Yes.
Right? Right, that is what these people are trying to tell you. Now in the regular course we have learned about object-oriented approach. We have seen one to many, many to one, all this relationship we have seen, right? So here,
Yeah.
that is what. Now what is the relationship between timesheet and a recruiter? Timesheet and a recruiter is, okay, one recruiter will fill in only one timesheet, and it
One
is
timesheet, 1-to-1.
and it is unary association. A recruiter can fill in a timesheet, but a timesheet cannot fill in a recruiter. Right?
Right.
So it is like a unary association. Now these relationships, when we try to probe into it, it happens in that way. A recruiter can fill in a timesheet, but a timesheet cannot fill in a recruiter. that is unary association, right? You got me? He fills in that. Now here, this type of relationships between the job descriptions, recruiters, like a single recruiter can work on multiple JDs, and similarly, this JD, one JD would be can be worked by multiple recruiters as well. So both ways it is possible. Okay, so that is, there is no direct relationship that one recruiter will be working on only one JD. In this particular case, it is not the relationship. The relationship is open. We have to understand about it. So in that, whether it is derived or dependent, now JDs, if there is no JDs, timesheet, it is not there. So the timesheet is dependency. It is dependent on the JD, and efforts would be like, you have to understand the approaches here, how it is going to happen here. I want you to go through it, understand, and then give these relationships. Fine, got it? Got an idea about what we're trying to do it? Okay. Now, so next is relationships, and then we have this traceability repository. Now traceability repository means, like, let me say we have to go with an let me say how we are tracking during the development, how that is a traceability matrix, we have it, but it is not during the development. It is like we have to understand how it is being happened, like during the development, what relationship these people, these entities have, and how they're linked. Okay, the impact of each entity on others, that we have to understand it here. And repository means where we are going to store it. Repository means where we are going to store this, we have to understand it, like in a Google Drive, for example. Our discussions, we are saving it in a Google Drive so that everyone will have access to it. Since we are learning, there is no abstraction. Okay, let me say there will be an abstraction if some sensitive information is there, then there will be an abstraction. Until that time, all information is available to all the participants, right? You got me? So sensitive information is not been shared with everybody. Sensitive information is dealt one to one. The rest of the details are available over the what we say, the drive, right? You got me? So like what we are going to use, and what we are going to trace out, and that is what we have to repository may, what we have to understand, we have to take it here, right? Got it? And then the rest of the things you leave it and just look into the what we will be looking into this outputs. So requirements, how they are traced, and designed, how they are traced. So this is how, if you see, we have a clear relationship with other requirements and solutions. Likewise, because if we come up with that, this will be the output of it. Got it? Clear on that? And after that, you maintain the requirements. For maintaining the requirements, okay, once again, the outputs would be requirements and designs only. The previous input only will be the input here. And here we have to understand maintaining the requirements, how you are going to maintain a requirement. Maintaining a requirement means if a change is going to happen, how this change can be induced in this particular requirement, where it is going to tag it. So you need to understand it. Okay, and maintain also the relationship among the requirements and set of requirements. I'll tell you, if you go here, maintaining requirements, if you want to understand, I'll tell you here the relationship between the JDs and a recruiter is, one recruiter can work on multiple JDs, and a single JD can be worked by multiple recruiters. Now they came a change that no, one JD only one recruiter will be handling it. If one JD is given to one recruiter, he cannot he has to only fulfill that. Until he fulfills, he will not get the second one. Like that, they may actually give. One recruiter may work on multiple JDs, but JD is worked by only one recruiter. Next, they may come up with that change. Then how this varies here, you need to understand it. How it varies here, you have to understand. You got me? Clear on that? So in the backend design may, if you can see the backend design may, here I said the drop down of the client and the JD will be selected. And here previously for all the, what we say, the recruiters, the JDs will be selected. But here the JD for the particular who is mapped to that particular recruiter, only that JD would be shown to that particular recruiter. So that is a change what is going to happen here. We need to understand by this. Okay, maintain requirements, also maintain. That is what, where the changes can happen. If that is the case, we have to understand it. And maintain the attributes of the requirements. For each requirement, we have to understand the source, priority, complexity. Like for each, I gave you one requirement. For this requirement, what will be the, like you have to come up with the attributes of these requirements, right? And then there are some reusable, we have to identify the reusable requirements. So what are the reusable requirements here? You can understand few things can be like reusability can be there. So what are those kind of, we can understand reusable requirements means, suppose I can tell you a functionality here. Suppose if a recruiter is able to see his own JDs, like how many JDs I'm working on it, he can generate a report of his JDs. The similar kind of report you can give it to the accounts officer as well. That guy can also select each recruiter and see what JDs they are working on. Like that, they can also see the reports there. Okay, so here what functionality is given, the same functionality is also given to the accounts officer. Like what is the reusability which we can bring in, we have to understand it here. What is the reusability about it, right? And information management, that is this, and the output, if you see, so requirements maintained and designed maintained. So here I want you to think from those perspectives and start writing things here, and then prioritize the requirements. So what is in prioritizing the requirements? So we have to understand what we can prioritize here. Okay, same requirements and design everywhere it comes. So a few things you have to think about it and take it forward, right? Now, okay, so I want you to now start working on basis for prioritization and just give your thoughts about it. Each one of you will speak about the prioritization. So we'll start with Madhulika.
Yeah. Prioritization for the respective case study would be the dependencies and the cost, because time sensitivity wasn't mentioned in the case study.
Mm-hmm.
And regulatory compliance also wasn't is not a part of it. So it would be a dependencies, the cost and the risk involved in it.
Okay.
And obviously the benefit that we would be getting from automating the timesheets of the recruiter, since it was consuming a lot, since it was there was a lot of time that was getting wasted for the accounts officer in filing the bills.
Okay, fine. Gyan?
And the stability of the application also.
Yeah, that is more important.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Gyan, your inputs on the prioritization?
I think it's first would be cost.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as you mentioned, stability, regulatory compliances, and the risk and dependencies.
Okay. Anita?
Yeah. So I think it could be stability, then benefits, dependency, and cost. These all are actually the interdependent disciplines that need to understand all the requirements and then prioritize basis of that.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Anita, you can speak about what can be the challenges in prioritization, and so when you are prioritizing, what will be the challenges? You are just thinking that you can predict what you can face on the.
Yeah. So there might be the challenges understanding of the particular functionality, or might be a cost, and might be a time. Means if I wanted to complete this task in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but the client time is like 1 week or something. So
Now we are
accordingly,
prioritizing
those
the.
are all the.
We are prioritizing the requirements, so it's not maybe
Okay.
the timeline may not come into picture, like how important is.
Maybe then which are the important one, which should have, which should not have.
Okay.
That can be in that deep level.
Okay. Nyan, your inputs on this challenges of prioritization of the requirements?
Since the client is in remote location like Germany, cost make sorry, honestly speaking, I can't think of challenges.
Okay. Okay. Let Madhulika speak on it. Then I'll give my inputs on it. Madhulika, your inputs on challenges on prioritization?
Yeah, challenges of prioritization, I would think dependencies is a major challenge, because dependencies between the requirements and the relationships between the requirements is a major concern. It is primarily to be understood, because that would help us in coming back to the cost, in cutting our costs as well. So cost is not only about being in remote location, but also the amount of time spent by the business analyst and the development team. So primarily it is the dependencies and the risk involved in if at all the dependencies are not understood correctly, major the risk involved in the application not being stable again. So here the challenges would be the major challenge would be understanding the dependencies right. Yeah.
Okay, let me put my inputs here. Challenges in prioritization means, let me say, I'll tell you, the focus area of an accounts officer would be like he wants that report to be generated first. But for you to generate a report, the timesheet should be filled in by the recruiters. And recruiters do not show that much interest in generating or inputting the time. They say, I'm working, let me work, and I'll not inputting the data, maybe like. So here, these people have to input the data there, then only the accounts officer will get a report. Okay. So first thing, just once you understand that directly you cannot generate a report without the recruiters inputting their efforts through JDs and clients like that. If you don't, and if they don't enter in that way, then the accounts officer will not get a report. But this guy wants a report immediately. Those guys will not, actually may not be in a position to enter it. So here prioritization, that guy says no, those guys whatever they do, it's not that a priority. Whatever I do is more priority. This guy would be thinking in that mode. But without their contribution, this particular feature cannot be achieved. You got me, no? Let me say, generally, let me say the managers, how they think is that whatever work they do is great and better than whatever their team members will do. But without the team members, in this particular case, in our case study, whatever the team members do only is the main work here. Streamlining their work, capturing their work, and billing their work is the accounts officer role, right? Actually, the entire work is dependent on the recruiters. Now you cannot give more priority to the reports which this guy generates. Actually, that input should come from the recruiters only. You got me, no? So when you are discussing with an accounts officer, generating a report, he give highest priority, and he may give low priority to the team members entering the data. But in fact, without the team members entering the data, you can't generate a report. That's where the conflict comes. Challenges in prioritization comes. That guy tells you I want report, but that report you can't generate without the data entry. So data entry work is given low priority. You got me, no? Data entry work is given low priority there. In such cases, a challenge will come. And continual prioritization means here, as and when the time progresses, the prioritization changes because of discovery of new information. We can keep changing the prioritizations and we can keep moving on it. Okay. And then we will be looking into the, you can see this outputs, like we have to come up with the prioritization of the requirements and prioritization of the designs. We will be coming out with it. I want you to write at least 10 requirements and 10 designs. Okay, before you could start working on this prioritization requirements, you have to come up with, I just gave you one, I want you to write down 10. Then only this case study will get that clarity of what you are trying to do. Otherwise, you will not get what you are trying to do. So I want you to write down how many 10 requirements and 10 designs. 10 requirements and 10 designs. You first prepare it, and from there you can actually this particular knowledge area you can bring in more clarity about it. Okay, assess requirements changes. Now if you look into this, the same thing, when you want to make a change, first of all, whatever we have seen in tracing the requirements, the same formula you will be having it here, because it is a change request. We have the impact analysis coming into picture. We have the impact analysis coming into picture here, and impact analysis and impact resolution. Okay, that is what we are going to see here in the change request, right? Got me? So here basically impact analysis. So because of a particular change, what will be the impact? Now I told you previously one example. That example is that only one recruiter will work on one JD will be worked by only one recruiter. That is the change that has given. Then what will be the impact? I want you to work on that particular area. Like previously, one JD can be worked by many recruiters. Now later on they came up with a one change request. What is the change request? The change request is one JD will be worked by only one recruiter. Then how it will be the impact on this, the existing structure? You have to assess it. And similarly, we may now I can give you one more change request. Okay, the other change request is previously we are all of a sudden what actually happens, I'll tell you. They say no, we don't bill you by the timesheets. Now for the recruitment we are going to bill you. Once you complete one recruitment, once a candidate is placed, then we will give you 1% on it. 1 month salary will give you. That is one more change request they came. Then how this will impact? You got me? I want you to work on 2 change requests. I gave you 2 change requests. What are those 2 change requests? Number one, one JD will be worked by only one recruiter. That is one change request. The other change request is the billing cycle entirely alters. Now the billing is not with respect to the timesheets. They said the billing is with the billing is with the recruitment done. Then how it will impact? So likewise, I want you to assess these 2 change requests, work on these 2 change requests here, so that you get more clarity about it. Fine, got it? Clear on this? You got an idea about how this we can make it up? Okay, and then we have it then approve requirements. Now approve requirements is something like right, what are the tasks, what is the inputs here, and what are the elements here? You just try to understand it. Approve, that is said. Okay, conflict and issue management, gain consensus, and track. Okay, now the stakeholder roles. The stakeholder rules have been given you the stakeholder rules. So just get into those stakeholder rules and understand it. And conflict and issue management, that means if a conflict has come, then how you are going to actually manage it, that you have to write it, right? So and then come to one agreement, how we are going to come to one agreement, and then how we are going to track and communicate these approvals among these stakeholders and the team members, that we will be seeing it here. Okay, fine, got it. And I think with this you please work on this knowledge area, and you upload it by today, end of the day. Then tomorrow we'll have one discussion on it and go to the next knowledge area and we'll complete it. So if you don't start, the first task is, I'll tell you what you have to do. I'll tell you here. Number one, you have to prepare 10 requirements and 10 designs. This is the first step which you have to do it. Then only Once you start working, you will get that clarity. Okay. And the second part is, I told you about a change request. I gave you change request 1. What is the change request 1? Change request 1 means one JD will be handled by only one recruiter. And the third one, I gave you change request 2. Like the billing is not with timesheets. Now what they said, it is with the recruitment done. If the candidate is placed, then they'll give you some, like let me say they give you 1 month salary. After 3 months service of the candidate. So possibly there's a second change request. Now you can actually look into it and understand how we can make it happen here. Then you can easily understand how to take things forward. Fine, got it? Clear on this? Okay, I want you to pull out some time and just work on this, give your inputs. Any challenge is there, tomorrow we'll work on, we'll complete this and go to the next knowledge area. Got it? Clear? Any questions from you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a question around the change request.
Yeah.
With the present change request, first and second, it completely changes the application outlook.
Yes.
Like
that is what I
we
want
used to
you
have
to.
so many.
Now sometimes no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to understand that only. Good that you identified it at the beginning itself, because the entire architecture changes. So that's what we are going to discuss on the next knowledge area about. I've been talking about the requirements architecture. You remember requirements architecture? We discussed about it. The requirements architecture will be changed with a second change request. The first change request architecture will not be changed. Only small changes, it's okay. So that we will be discussing about in the next knowledge area. If such a change request is come, it alters the what requirements architecture altogether. So this we should be very clear what change request we can handle. That's why we as a business analyst we should know how to handle the change requests. For that we need to know the requirements first. Not only the requirements architecture first. So the relationship between these requirements, the relationship between the entities, that is there. So that's the very reason I want you to just work on it. So you're on this right thought process only. Good, you're on the right thought process, but we will understand it. Okay, through BABOK we'll understand it. Fine. Any other questions you have?
No.
Okay. Fine. Keep doing it, and tomorrow we'll meet back and we will discuss about it. Okay.